the next generation is having a difficult time connecting to faith communities.
So now my responsibility is to bring the families back to church, where I don't know that that's really our job.
This pot is on fire.
Welcome to the Rethinking Youth Ministry podcast. My name is Ashley, and I am so pumped to be here with my friends today because we have a very special episode for you. Before we jump in that, I want you to know who's in the room with me today. We're starting off to my left.
Yes, I'm Jamel Jones, spelled Jamal, pronounced Jamel. It's not a typo, I promise. So I'll tell that story eventually. And I have been in youth ministry for a little over 15 years. A lot of that volunteer, a few of it full-time. And I also, at this moment in my life, have one middle schooler even in my home.
Wow.
I have a 13-year-old 7th grade boy. Shout out to all the 7th grade boys out there listening. The 7th grade boys that you parent, all of those things. 7th graders you minister to. So I'm hyped to be up
we're
in
really
here.
big in the 7th grade space.
So you
They
work,
love
Had to
us.
say.
you work
They
in
love
youth
us.
ministry, you volunteer in youth ministry,
I
and
parent
you
a middle
parent
schooler.
a middle school ministry.
He creates youth ministry.
Whoa, hey. So
We're
yes,
glad you're here.
I'm glad to be here.
My name is Charlie Conder, and I have been serving either in a classroom or in a church setting for 25 years. 25 years this year.
Hey-o.
Yeah.
Longevity.
Quarter of a century.
No, it's weird because I'm like a second career youth pastor. So that makes me feel even older.
Which is great.
Is it?
It is.
Okay. Well, with age comes wisdom.
Yes.
And with that note, can we throw it to Stuart?
Oh,
You're also a burnout coach.
Yeah.
You also have an organization called Charlie's Cards. If you
Yeah.
haven't
Yep.
checked it
Yeah.
out, you need to.
Yeah, I do love to coach youth workers to help them be their best selves. And like Ash is saying, I do have a greeting card business because I felt so passionate about the difference it makes when you do small things for students, just like sending a little love in the mail. So
I love it. It's
Thanks.
brilliant. We'll drop it in the show notes.
I'm Stuart, 34th year of working with the next generation. Zero plans to do anything else.
yes.
If for no other reason, the people around this circle. I just believe in our team and what we do, and believe in youth leaders everywhere and how important, we're going to talk about that today, just how important youth workers are in our culture.
Yeah.
If you think about it, think what would be if there weren't people who cared as much as youth leaders do about the next generation. It's a
Darn.
scary thought. So honored to be a part of the conversation.
Today, we have a little bit of a different episode because this happens to be the final episode in this season of RYM. You made it. You made it to the finish line, friends.
You listen to
And
everyone.
so today, we pulled together some of the most encouraging humans that have ever walked the planet.
okay,
The
then.
people that are in this
Okay.
room.
I will receive that.
Because we decided today, in this season of life, we need to take some time to talk about why you are awesome and why what you do matters.
Yes.
And why what we all do matters. Because we all need to keep playing this game and we need to stay in the game.
Yes.
So I brought all the coaches. We got to hype you up.
I
We gotta
also
hype
am.
each other up.
I also am a certified youth ministry coach. I have the piece of paper to show you. We'll put that in the show notes. We won't. But yeah, I just wanted to add that as well. I'm not as seasoned as the other homies, so I had to add that in there as well. I'm here.
We're glad you're here.
I got reps. I got proof. I
love
also like
it.
to call myself like just the world's hype man, or the homies hype man. I'm here for you. If you ain't doing bad, I'm here to hype you up in it.
I can agree with that. I call you the captain of my hype team.
You do.
Because I've never known somebody who hypes somebody as hard as you do. You've taught me a lot about that.
Yes.
Thank you, Jamel.
Where does that
You're
come
welcome.
from, Jamel?
Yeah.
Where does it come from? Just my spiritual gift of encouragement. That's where it comes from.
Ah.
And also my love for hip hop. I love the hip hop hype man. Flavor Flav, pioneer in hype manning.
I didn't see that
Flavor
one
Flav!
coming. I know.
Exactly.
I didn't
Exactly.
Here.
But
Yes.
I'm with you. I appreciate you.
Does anyone have a giant clock I can put
know.
on?
Okay, let's start with talking about why is it important for youth leaders to support and encourage each other. Like, why would we ever do an episode like this?
Well, reality, sometimes our jobs suck.
Yes.
Right? And then they're life draining. So if you don't have a pack of coaches or a bunch of friends that you get to hang out with that do ministry that understand you, because our jobs are also weird. I mean, we have really weird jobs.
Yes.
Yes. Say more, Charlie.
Yeah.
Talk about how weird being a youth leader is.
It is weird. Don't you ever catch yourself when you're in Sam's Club and you got $500 worth of like pool noodles, Snickers, and like energy drinks, and
Yes.
somebody's like, "What are you up to?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm just feeding the next generation." Right?
Yes.
We have really weird jobs.
Absolutely.
So we need people who get us.
Yes, absolutely. There are moments where, I do things that are like normal in student ministry, but then like are slightly strange outside of student ministry. And I'm just like, oh, snap. Yeah, this is a weird job, actually. So there's that as well.
Yeah.
I feel that tension.
Not to take it to a more serious note, but the harsh reality is over the last 25 years, over 40 million people have stopped attending church.
Yeah.
Which means church attendance obviously is diminishing, which means budgets are diminishing. The next generation is having a difficult time connecting to faith communities. And then there are scores of youth leaders all around America who take that personally.
Yes.
And so the reality is that where we sit as a culture has very little to do with you as a youth leader. In fact, I would propose it would be worse if it wasn't for you. So all the more reason why we need people who sit beside us, put their arm around us, who pray with us, who talk with us, who are willing to cry with us. Because if we're not careful, we could become so discouraged with the cultural moment
Yes.
that we miss the fact that you're having an impact in a teenager's life that could wind up that could shift culture
Yes.
because of your presence. That's why I think it's important.
And not to mention the scores of youth workers who have left
Correct.
the career
Yeah.
and have left the field because it is so hard and there is so much pressure.
And like really great youth workers who have been in the trenches for a really long time. They're like, nah, I'm not here for it anymore.
Right.
And that's hard sometimes.
It is.
I was just going to say, we probably need to own, too, the tension that is happening within faith communities because we were just talking about this earlier. There are 6 or 7 generations represented in a faith community. And the way an older generation may see the younger generation has an impact on how the younger generation sees faith, how the younger generation translates Jesus in their norm. And youth leaders sit in the middle of that, trying to hold their hands between an older generation and the next generation, helping them bring those two together. And I think part of the reason why so many are quitting is because it's getting harder and harder to stand between the two.
Yo.
And the expectation to me feels greater now post COVID because, we're not seeing families back. So now my responsibility is to bring the families back to church, where I don't know that that's really our job.
That's good.
So you've all been in the game for some time now. What would you say is one thing you wish that youth workers, whether you're volunteer or paid, what do you wish they knew was true about what they do?
What I think I wish that more of us knew is true about what we do is that what we do now has the potential to really affect someone's forever. And maybe that's slight hyperbole, but I myself, I'm 33 years old, and interactions I had with important people in my life at 13, I remember like they were yesterday. And those people, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna remember those forever, so do they know how important they were at the moment? Have I told them how important they were? A few of them, yes. But I think that's what keeps me going, and what's kept me going is remembering, okay, what I'm doing right now may not seem important, but there's potential that God could be using me in someone's story forever. And that's really important. It's helped me a lot.
That's really good.
That's so good.
I am very privileged to be on the 25-year plus of being in ministry because I get to see some really beautiful fruit from all of my years.
Talk to the people, Charlie.
Yeah, it's the late night phone calls and the kid that you drive home all the time. Recently, an old student that I used to take home from church because his parents never showed up, and I'd take him home, and he was hard. Y'all know, hard
Yes.
middle school boy. And every time his dad would be out in the garage and I'd try to talk to the dad, and the dad's kind of like, forget you. I don't care if my kid wasn't at home. Like, at least he was somewhere. He wasn't here bugging me, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm just persistent. I'm an 8 on the Enneagram, and I'm just going to keep bugging you. So I just keep showing up and sometimes feel discouraged in that. However, that same student OD'd this year, and I went to his service, and the dad immediately like knew me, knew who I was, and was like, "Thank you for showing up." See, and that matters so much because I think we feel so discouraged when we can't connect with that outreach parent. We can't be there for that family, but we don't know what it's going to do 20 years later.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't keep showing up, which sounds so simple, but showing up in different ways than just bringing kids into a program.
Yeah.
That's so good. Ashley, when you asked that question, I thought 3 things immediately. The first, someone has wisely stated that we plant trees in whose shade we'll never sit. And it's very much to Charlie's point. What is the most true and the most difficult about what we do is that in many ways we are like making small investments in a spiritual 401k that we may
Oh, that's good.
we may never ever reap the profit from, but somebody else will. The second thing I wish that every youth leader knew is that every teenager is different. And every teenager's relationship with Jesus is not going to look like yours. They may not even trust in the same isms and ists as you, if at all. Obviously, we hope they do. But following in the way of Jesus can look different for every teenager. And not just that, but every family is different. And unfortunately, we kind of set a template when we start doing what we're doing and think this is what it means for a Christian family to exist, and this is what it means for a teenager to follow Jesus. And that's not true, because everybody's different, every family's different, and it's going to express itself. I'm grateful that all 4 of us follow in the way of Jesus in a different way, because I learned something from Jamel and Charlie and Ashley that helps me follow in my way better. And then the last thing is that words create worlds. I'm not sure youth leaders understand that there are teenagers that hang on every word you say. And if you're not careful, you could not even intentionally like lead a teenager in a way that's not good for them. But if we were to consider that, think about the life we give when we speak a word of life to a kid. That changes the course of their trajectory forever.
Yep.
Those are the 3 things I wish every youth leader knew was true.
I love the idea that words create worlds. And let's be biblical just for a quick second. If you think about how the world was created, God spoke the world into existence, as Genesis says, right? And I had a seminary professor who really harped on this, and he gives the example of, if I'm meeting with a student and I say to them, hey, like, let's go get lunch. I'm going to take you out to lunch. My words have now created a world where they are fed. And then depending on the student, if you show up or don't, they don't get fed, right? Am I right? Am I wrong? Now, another maybe more positive example is if you tell a student, hey, I'm going to be at your game this coming week, you've now created the world that you were at their game encouraging them. And so when you do, you have now created this world of encouragement and goodness for them. So I love that idea that words create worlds. And we do this every day, unintentionally. But so how incredible would it be? Oh, let's just backtrack to how incredible have you been, or how incredible has God been through you to show up in these places, to create beautiful worlds for your students? Maybe you've forgotten that in all the, pool noodles and the budget reports and friends that are leaving. Like God is using you to create worlds of goodness in the name of Jesus for students.
Okay.
That's incredible.
Preach.
Yep.
Well, these are just a few amazing truths about what we all as youth workers get a chance to do. I would love in this hype session to just open the floor for do we got any shout outs? Any shout outs that we need to give to our fellow youth workers?
Yes, I do. I got a homie. It's actually a mutual homie between Charlie and I, Katie Nielsen in Richmond, Virginia, my hometown. She has been serving for almost 10 years in her current church, in her current role, but even more years before that at Hope Church. She's technically like the Hope students' lead pastor, but through the middle school seat, which a lot of churches actually don't even let you do that for reasons I won't talk about now. But Katie, not only 10 years in middle school, 10 years at the same church, and you have a team that you lead well, and she's kind of in charge of the internship there, and she's bringing incredible people like through ministry. So Katie is really doing things well on all cylinders and all places. So shout out to you, Katie. You the homie. Shout out to you.
We want to hear from you, Katie. We want to know what you're rethinking so that we can get your voice in this mix.
Please send it.
And
Send
tell us
an
what
audio.
people in Richmond think about Jamel.
Yeah, please do that.
You won't, Katie. You won't.
Wait, can I just do a blanket shout out to maybe some faceless friends?
Yes.
That live in a lot of context. I just feel there's a different vein of youth worker coming. I feel like the paid youth worker might be extinct in a few years, and hopefully will make its way back. But I want to hype up the small church person who,
Yes.
gosh, is giving of their time and their talents when they're not receiving a paycheck for it.
Mm-hmm.
And they show up and keep showing up, and they're doing all that they need to do, and then still balancing families and a job. And that job that they get, often that paycheck comes back around and helps in the youth ministry,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I have a lot of friends serving in contexts where, not by their choice, are now part-time, who have to be bivocational. And my heart goes out to them because, I don't know, the world is hard. And we all know leading in the Next Gen ministry is hard, but gosh, when you have to do 2 other jobs to make it happen, that's who I want to hype up, because y'all are doing the real work.
Seriously, though, because like, what ministry job is part-time?
Right.
Let's be honest.
It's only part-time pay, full-time hours.
Exactly.
Right?
It's like, it's just, you're heroes.
Yes.
If you fall in that category, I just want to say I agree, because
I agree, too,
everybody
for
in
the
those
record.
situations needs a massive shout out, because you are doing it for all the right reasons.
Right. I would take that and continue. Like, my mind went to, every summer I am in awe of adult volunteers who give up a week of their life to have concentrated context with a teenager. And the vulnerability that teenagers display with a significant adult who cares enough about them in that week, the stories that youth leaders start telling you that teenagers are telling them. And then you consider that that same adult who probably lost money or paid their way to go to camp to invest in that kid does it every week. They invest in a teenager every single week. Those are the people that I don't think we think about enough, because way too often for the paid youth worker, adult volunteers too many times seem to be a means to an end. In some regard, they are the end.
Yeah.
They really are the lifeline to a teenager. So if there was a way we could hype our adult volunteers 10 billion times over, most of them
Or
probably
student volunteers.
Yup.
those are really the heroes of youth ministry,
Yep.
as much as those people that Charlie's talking about who are, doing what they're doing for no compensation whatsoever. The reality is youth workers will never be paid what they're worth.
Yeah.
True.
Say that.
True.
Say that again.
Youth workers will never be paid what they're worth.
Yep.
True.
So true.
If I may give another more general shout out, in the line of work that I do for Orange, I talk to a lot of people who are thinking about using the curriculum, and I'm just meeting a lot of people who have been the kids person, elementary person for a long period of time, and now for a myriad of reasons are now becoming the student person also. So I just want to shout out to all of you people that are like that, because you're probably listening to this podcast because I don't know what I'm doing. Because in some ways, a lot of them think that, student ministry is just like kids ministry, and they realize that it's not. And now they are trying to learn and prepare themselves. And, you've stepped into an incredible world that is different than the world that you already were in, yet the standard skills are there, and it's just developing the specific context. So the bravery that it takes, the faith that it takes to make that step and that transition, that
so
add-on is
good.
incredible. So you are incredible.
I want to shout out all the leaders who are struggling with their mental health right now and are making choices to choose themselves in a time where, gosh, Christmas, Easter, back to school, whatever's happening in your ministry right now, but you're choosing to care for yourself. I think that should be rewarded and pumped up.
Yes.
Because I think too many times we're too scared to care for ourselves because we have so much to do. And so those of you who are fighting mental health issues, thanks for still being here and being in the game and caring for yourself so that you can be here a year or 10 years from now.
That's so good. Relevance is an interesting idea because we don't always, but it's interesting how we connect it to coolness for some reason. A cold cup of water is relevant to someone who's thirsty. It's very relevant. I think the older that youth leaders get, the more irrelevant they feel. And I just want to encourage older youth leaders.
Yes.
A very wise friend of this podcast once said that teenagers will always gravitate to the oldest person in the room who takes them seriously.
Yes.
Your relevance has everything to do with how seriously you take the next generation.
Yes.
One of the things I've discovered about myself is the older that I get, the more serious I take the next generation.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So there are older youth leaders who are thinking about tapping out or throwing in the towel.
Don't do it.
No.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Because
Please don't do it.
Don't
we
do
need
it.
you.
desperately need older youth leaders who take the next generation seriously, because there is a teenager that is looking for you to gravitate towards you because they need your wisdom in their life.
I love that.
Don't quit.
I want to shout out the youth leader who feels like their leadership doesn't see them and doesn't value what they're doing.
Yes.
I know that is a hard place to be. So I just want to encourage you, write down areas where you know you slayed. Like you
Yes.
won. Like you know you did the hard work, and whatever the outcome was,
For those
the
of you that
hard
are
work.
older, slayed means did really well.
Oh, I
Real
love
quick.
having
Make a list
translator.
and then do something to celebrate it. Like you don't have to celebrate or know you did well by somebody else telling you. You can make that happen yourself.
True.
And I just want you to know you're awesome. We know all that's required of youth ministry, even if the people you report to do not. You are not alone. We're so glad that you're listening to this pod.
That's almost a learned skill in youth leaders in youth ministry, I think. Like, because too
Similar.
many times I don't think it's that our senior leadership doesn't care. I think they just get so busy doing too many other things.
Yes.
And they forget to speak into the life of the person. The interesting thing about what we do is that there's almost a crisis every day if we're uber connected in our community, which is unlike almost every other area of a faith community.
Yes.
So
So true.
if we're not careful, if we don't learn that, it's almost a skill. Like I need to be able to encourage myself because I'm not always going to get it from people that I need it from. Is that kind of where you were going there?
Absolutely. Yep.
I keep a drawer and a file folder full of encouragement.
You started Charlie's Cards.
Well, I did start Charlie Cards, but it came out of like all these things that people have given me over the years as encouragement. Even if it was a Post-it note on my door from a student, I saved those because of those days that are really long and hard, and no one really knows what you've been up to, but you know that you've stepped into a pretty like serious context with a student.
Yep.
And so I put myself up with my file folder full of cheer and joy and Post-it notes because I don't know, I think that matters.
I do the exact same thing. It's all in a shoebox though. So on really rough days, I pull out the shoebox of encouraging notes and I just go through all of them.
It's good.
Can I slip one in here? The spouse and the children of a youth leader.
Ooh.
Because way too often it can feel as if you care about everybody else
Yes. But
and
you don't.
not your own. There are spouses that love teenagers as much as their youth leader spouse, if for no other reason, the time that they do this to give that spouse the ability to invest in the next generation. And then their children, who our kids can begin to feel like you care about every other kid in the world except me.
Yeah.
There are children that have invested in the next generation as much as their mom or dad, just because of them going, I'm open-handed with my parent.
Yeah.
So let's not forget about them.
Yeah, totally. So my shout out to you is you're amazing. You are not incomplete. What you do matters. What you do with your free time is no different than somebody else who has a spouse or has children, and what they do in their free time is hang out with them. and you can do something different, and it's just as important. And I'm cheering you on. You're not alone. There are a lot of us in the game. Although it feels isolating, we're here for you.
Can I go on the heels of that?
Yes.
Okay, I want to get a shout out to all the women in ministry.
Hey,
and
all the
ladies.
And especially moms who are also youth workers who have to come home and mom the heck out of their families, cook dinner, get the laundry done, and then go back to church for that evening programming. Because also, ladies, if you're single or if you have a family, what you do matters.
I would also like to add one shout out that there is a younger generation of young youth leaders coming up.
Mm-hmm.
For those of you that don't know, there seems to be a growing chasm between the aging youth leader and then this new crop of emerging youth leaders.
Okay.
We desperately need you to keep pushing to be the best version of you so that you can be the best leader that you can be.
Mm-hmm.
Because Charlie has continued to help us remember that the church is changing. The professional youth leader seems to be going away, which means there's going to be even more opportunity for new youth leaders to come onto the scene. So we desperately need you to keep your head down, keep grinding, keep working, keep building yourself so that you can be the best version of yourself for the next generation. We appreciate you.
Yes.
I love that. I'm so glad you brought that up because I was thinking, like, anyone who's in their first or second year of youth ministry, whether you're Gen Z or a millennial or whatever generation you're part of, you made it. You're still here. Like, we're so excited that you're here, and your fresh perspective is going to bring new ideas and energy that we desperately need. And I know sometimes it can be frustrating because if you're working with anyone who's been around for a while, it can be hard because you're excited about something and they're trying to tell you why it might not work. So if you feel discouraged at all, keep going, keep showing up, being positive about it, and be curious about why is it that way? Like, how did you arrive here? Because you might just find that your idea and the reality of what it is can actually work well together.
And we need that ideation and innovation.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Because way too often we can get in a rut. So we desperately need new thoughts, new ideas, new frameworks to help us take the next generation to where they deserve to go.
Yes. Bring those ideas, and unfortunately, you'll have to push for new ideas to make it to the surface. So keep pushing, and let's see those things come out.
I love it.
Can I give an individual shout out, or is that not a thing anymore? Can I do that?
No, you can.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna put on for my city. Back to Richmond, Virginia. Shaq Taylor, high school pastor at Hill City RVA. Brother, my black brother, I just want to say to you real quick, I appreciate you. He's new to his role. He's new to the church, but he's bedding into the culture well. Not only is he the high school pastor, he also just had his 6th daughter, that was born.
Wow.
And he also is finding the time by the power of the Holy Spirit to be like the coach of a basketball team in the city. Brother, it's a powerful work you're doing. I appreciate you. I'm inspired by you. Thank you. Wow. Shaq Taylor, everybody.
Okay, shout out to Amy and Lysandra in Oregon. I am so undone by my experience hanging out with you this summer. The tradition you have of students putting a stake in the ground to mark what Jesus did in them that year.
Yes.
And you've been doing it for over 30 years. Ooh. My mind was like blown. Like, I couldn't even handle walking through the stake garden. 30 years of fruit and movement of God. And you watch students walk through to look at what they wrote on their stake the year before what they wrote on their stake the year before that. Like, I can't even handle, like, and I just love that it was valuing every step a kid took in faith, as much as their salvation decision, and their decision to maybe stop hanging out with that person who they've, have promised 3 times to stop hanging out with.
3 years in a row.
Yeah. So I just love you guys, and I'm so for you.
I want to rededicate my stops hanging out with people.
Yes.
I want to give a shout out to the youth worker who was generously given $1,000 budget this year.
Oh, wow.
You're going to have to get super creative, but there are so many organizations or restaurants or things in your community I hope that you're partnering with to make every dollar count. We see you, and we know it stinks. Like, really stinks.
Yeah. And along with that, I'd like if there is a youth leader at a larger church in a community, my encouragement to you is for you to steward that well and to hand some things off and to partner with smaller or a church that doesn't have as big of a budget. Because we desperately need each other. I know one of the things that I love doing more than anything else when I was a local church youth leader is networking with other youth leaders.
Yeah.
And sometimes the life you can breathe into a ministry because you have a bigger budget and a bigger building and you decided to do a community-wide event just because you're humble enough to go, let me spread out my hands and give away what we've been blessed with.
Yeah.
Do that because you're already thinking about it.
Yep.
You're already thinking about it. Go ahead and do it.
We could probably go on forever. We have all the things to say. But we don't want this encouragement and support for each other to stop. So my challenge to you, friends, is stop whatever you're doing and send that text message.
Yes.
Make that post.
Yep.
Yes.
Comment on whatever you comment on. Just send some love to your friends in the ministry trenches, whether it's volunteer or staff, because we need us all to keep showing up because next year is going to be the best year ever.
Ooh.
All right, really quick, we were making a playlist together and it was our Hype Up Youth Workers playlist, what would you add? What song?
The song that's really hyping me up right now is Tori Kelly's Missing You. I know it's like a relationship song, but the beat really gets me hype. I gotta say it for real.
That's good.
That's
Charlie,
the truth.
I can't wait to hear yours.
Okay, so the world just needs to know I love folk music, and so we're talking
As
like
one does.
some banjo hypeness.
Yes,
but
we
I
want
love
that.
anything by Noah Kahan. But I also think Johnny Swim has a song called "Ring the Bell" that can totally get you motivated.
I love
I
it.
know.
Shocker, I'm going old school.
Okay, tell
Okay.
us.
Lose Yourself, Eminem.
Wow.
Okay.
Yes. The clean version though, right?
Of course. Coupled
course.
with DNA by Kendrick Lamar.
Again, the
Okay.
clean version. You
Oh,
really need a
yeah.
clean version on that song. Yes, done.
Okay, I'm going Alicia Keys, Girl on
Ooh.
Fire.
Yes.
This girl is on fire.
That is not Alicia Keys.
Similar but different. Similar but different.
In my
It's
head.
the Timo. It's the Temu version right here, the Wish version.
The Wish version. Ooh.
Temu.
Ooh.
Oh my
Ooh.
goodness.
I am shocked you didn't pick a Taylor Swift song.
Me too. I was sitting
I'm
over
glad
here
you
going,
did it.
I was
I'm glad
I was
you
like,
didn't.
which one is she going to pick? That
For
was
real.
my concern.
For real.
And then you rolled up out of
You
nowhere.
rolled out
I'm proud of
Alicia
you.
Keys.
All
I'm proud of you
right.
for you are spreading your wings.
Keep hyping me. Go ahead.
Yes. Yes.
I will receive it. Thank you so much. Friends, we could talk all day long about how amazing you are because you are. It's true. But we don't want the encouragement and support for each other to stop here. So wherever you are, if you're driving, pull over. If you are at your desk, seriously, if you're at your desk, pause what you're doing and send that text. That encouraging text to the youth worker down the road. Send a mass text to your volunteers. Post something on social media. Comment on this episode if there's the ability to comment.
Let's start a movement, Ashley.
Whoa.
Google every church in your community, find the youth leader, and email them and just simply say, I just want you to know I'm on your side.
Yes.
Yes. If
Yep.
if the
We are
website's good
in
enough.
this
Or
together.
send them a Charlie card.
Or send them a Charlie card.
CharlieCards.com. Official sponsor of the Rethinking Youth Ministry podcast.
It will be
that
in
and
the show
Pike's
notes.
Nursery.
Well done.
Yes, this is good. This is good stuff. Friends, we love you and believing with all of our heart that next year, 2024, will be our best year of ministry yet.
Yes.
RYM, Rethink Youth Ministry, will see you in January.
Sing us out, Jamel.
This pot is on fire. This pot is on fire. Yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah.